Okay, we're back. Thank you for hanging in there. Great technical difficulty. So, I'm going to start again. First of all, thanks to Chris Rohr for the beer. He gave me this beer to try. It's a German beer, so thank you, Chris, from our church. And tonight, I was specifically asked to talk about patience by somebody, and even more specifically, patience with for people who don't wear masks or try to social distance. That was the specific request. So I think we're going to start a little bit with a wider lens, and then we'll get to the specific request. So the first thing to know is that patience is a fruit of the spirit. It's mentioned in Paul's letter to the church in Galatia. It's part of what happens to Christians when we know God's love for us and God's grace for us, that we are able to be more patient with each other. Patience is what helps us to be around people who are different than us or who don't do things the way that we like them to. And patience is an important part of loving someone else. If you're in any kind of relationship with anybody, you will know that you'll need to have some patience. And it can be hard sometimes, right? When my kids were little, sometimes I would lose my patience with them, mostly around them getting dressed and out the door. Oftentimes I'd have somewhere I have to go, and they were late or not moving fast enough, and I would get impatient and I'd start to yell. And in one famous incident that's still talked about in our house, I actually kicked a hole in the wall when my son wouldn't get dressed fast enough. I lost my patience. And we lose our patience when we are inconvenienced or when we need to get to some place and someone isn't hurrying up, or we lose our patience when someone is in our way of getting what we need or want. In our current context, there are people that think and feel differently about the dangers of COVID-19. And this is not a problem, by the way. We can have different thoughts about this, except for when we're out in public and someone doesn't wear a mask or even try to keep their distance from us. So what makes this extremely hard is that we often don't have a relationship with that person. They're just a random stranger, right? In the case of my kids, I actually learned to have more patience with them. I came to understand that they were moving slowly, not to drive me crazy, but simply because they were kids. And they had their own quirks about getting dressed and all that stuff. I learned patience mostly because I had to, because I had a lifelong relationship with them. And I think if we develop patience with someone, the first thing is to try to be understanding. Is it possible for me to see the world through the eyes of that person? Can I try to understand why they are doing the things that they're doing? Or can I understand why they think a particular way? This is why patience is a spiritual thing, because it demands of us seeing the world through a different lens, through someone else's eyes. It demands that we understand the world not through our own ideas, but through someone else's. And that's really hard to do. All right. I want to add a word of caution, and that is that I don't think we should be patient with everything. Patience is one of the tools in our spiritual toolbox, but it's not the end of all things. For example, I don't think we should be patient with injustice. We should not be patient with ignorance. There is a time to demand that people act justly. And I'm specifically thinking, of course, of the crisis that's boiling over in our country right now about race. We've been patient for a long time. We've tried to talk reasonably. We've tried to reach people. We've tried to get people to listen to the stories of those who are in pain. We've tried to act appropriately. And our patience has run out. Now is the time for protest. Now is the time for demands. Now is the time for us to speak up and say no more. Now is the time for us to say no justice, no peace. Now is the time to say Black Lives Matter. Let's look at this from a particularly different angle, and that is, did Jesus lose his patience? And I would say, yeah. Jesus was patient, but there were times when Jesus has had enough. And just as a couple of examples, Jesus kept on teaching his disciples that he was going to have to go to the cross and die and then be resurrected. And his disciples kept on saying, that's not the way it's going to happen. And eventually, he gets fed up with them, and he snaps at Peter. And he says to Peter, get behind me, Satan. Not nice words, but hyperbole needed because Peter was not hearing him. And how about all those times that Jesus confronts political leaders who are using religion as a prop for their own gain? When Jesus is told that Herod is coming to kill him, Jesus snaps and says, "You go tell that fox exactly what I'm doing." How about when Jesus goes into the temple and he sees all these people making money off of poor people trying to make sacrifices? Jesus goes off and he turns over tables and he runs people out of the temple. His patience had run out. So this is a problem that we often have, is that we always see Jesus as being nice, that he was always nice or polite. And the truth is, Jesus spoke truth to powerful people. Jesus spoke truth about our world and what it was doing, and that wasn't always nice. Jesus wasn't endlessly patient. Sometimes he said or did shocking things to get people's attention. And there is a time and a place for that. So let me go back to the specific thing that was asked about people wearing masks. I think it's appropriate to have some righteous anger over the fact that people can't be bothered to wear a mask and keep their distance in public. People are doing that, quite frankly, are just selfish. I was in the supermarket the other day, and two men were having a conversation. One of them had a mask, and the other didn't. The guy without the mask said to the other guy, "I don't know why you're wearing a mask. This whole thing is stupid." And the guy with the mask said, "Yeah, it is. And if it wasn't for the fact that my wife had cancer, I wouldn't even be doing it." I hope you can see the absurdity in that comment. In other words, the guy with the mask is saying he only cares about his wife. He doesn't care about someone else's wife. And I just have no patience for that. However, I didn't know this person. I'm in a public place, and it's not the time to confront and challenge that person's mind. So what I would say is this. Patience is a good thing. We need patience to love our neighbor and each other. But we can't make it into a magic pill, because sometimes we shouldn't be patient. We all have to make the decision, just as Jesus did, about the right time and right place not to be patient. We have to make decisions about when it's appropriate to express our righteous anger. And how do we make that decision? Well, I really do trust the Holy Spirit to help me figure it out. And I hope that all of you will trust the Holy Spirit too. Anyway, just some thoughts I had on patience. I want to thank Gail McGann for that question. And thank you all for being here tonight. And I hope to see you on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. for Facebook Live. And thanks to Vic for helping me tape it. And sorry for the. I was hopefully being more patient with the. Thanks for your patience. God bless you all.